Approval minutes and claims. Okay. First item is the contract award. We read off the bids last meeting for highway solid waste. Kevin?
Correct. This contract is for replacement of the HVAC systems to start addressing the mold and bacterial issues that they have in the solid waste office area and space. So this contract, our portion of this will be $14,046.10, but it requires our approval along with the director's approval and a signature from the contractor. So that's what this contract reflects. So I'll make a motion that we approve this contract with Liberty Services.
I'll say. Roll call?
Okay, Jim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Okay. Next one's a bike pump track. We do not need a memorandum of understanding. We can go with the memorandum of agreement, ran that by legal. Kevin, you want to briefly touch on that?
Yeah, so basically the same thing goes here is we had an MOA and an MOU for the pickleball courts. Since the Living Adventurously organization is not making any quest to gain access to the pump track that prevents access to public, there's no need for an MOU. That's why it's not being chartered. The MOA that we have in place is the similar with the exception of a definition and the details from the Living Adventures. And wow, that's a mouthful. Living Adventurously. To cover the start of the construction that's supposed to be happening sometime next week. So based on the information that we have here, I recommend or motion that we approve this MOA.
Second.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
So before we jump to the board, election board, can we just briefly discuss the appointments? I don't know if any of the people for the help board here. Appointments.
Christy Crandall, let's see. Lori Owens. Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
About to reach out.
All right. So I don't know.
We'll table it.
Yeah, I think basically we can do the election board stuff. I was just wondering if their portion of whatever they're doing is just a brief introduction, correct?
Yeah, it's all was. We just wanted a kind of an introduction, who's interested in the board, and then we'll make any appointments probably next meeting. So, okay, we'll scratch that.
So do you want to proceed with doing that next or go ahead and have the election?
I was, well, what do you mean? Are those
If
folks,
they're willing to give us 10 minutes to do that, the two people that are here,
are they here?
are they? Do we have any
Christy
board
Crandall?
members here?
No, and then Lori Owens. John Simpson couldn't be here.
Okay,
I said we make up his,
so then I just, is the election board's ready?
yeah, scratch that. Election board, you're on, I believe.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. So I want to talk about that we found a spot for early voting. We are trying to wrap up our vote center plan and we cannot wrap it up until we have a destination. It has to be part of the plan. We can't introduce it to the Indiana Election Division nor bring it to you for a vote because it's not final until that piece is in it.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
not to put any pressure on, but you're what's holding the process up.
Actually, it's me because I said I would take it on. So in a scramble to address this in the last 4 hours, I have basically, it's been longer
You've
than.
been so attentive and given so much
Well,
attention to
the
it.
biggest chunks of things coming forth have come forth in the last few hours. So I did have a conversation. You had recommended looking at the exhibition hall at the 4-H fair.
Mhm.
And when I went and actually had a conversation with Mark Chargel, they have a contract in place where that building is used once a week by a church. And there are only exceptions to that contract for the month of June to the 3 Sundays. I'm hesitant to modify that contract on that because I think remind me or tell me exactly. It's typically the second week of April to the first week of May for the primaries,
It's basically the whole month of April.
the whole month of April
And the
and
whole month of October.
the whole month of October. So that kind of runs into, because they also have 4-H, 4-H activities that are taking place mid to late part of May.
Okay, well, I will also let you guys know that we, as the election board, Rick Kelly and Mark Williams went and talked with Kim Robinson over at the Y because she thought she might be able to help us, but once she realized that we needed it for 2 whole months, every single day, that it wasn't going to be a viable option for it. So we've also been looking, but we've not had any luck either.
So so as everyone knows in these meetings, we've had construction taking place where corrections is actually moving out to the courthouse. And I haven't finalized or formalized any of that, but I'm gonna have a conversation of maybe being able to actually find space in this building to have it
Okay,
conducted.
well,
And I'd like to have a conversation with you and the other 2 board members to say, this is, you know, what,
okay, well,
what we're
let's have
thinking.
a conversation about your plan because I'm not so sure it's going to work.
Okay,
And we'll discuss why.
okay,
All right, so that's all we wanted to do, was to put that at the forefront of your mind, because this is the only piece that is holding everything up. We have visited all the early vote center sites. We have, our site plans mapped out, the flow of traffic. And we're putting everything together, but this is going to be a missing piece. And we need to get this to the Indiana Election Division no later than the first week of September.
Oh, I would hope that we should be able to solve it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
What about that second building next to that out there to Floyd?
It's heated, not cooled. And it's not secure enough. So in the Jamboree, whatever, the music venue that's next to the exhibition hall was something that we talked about doing. But there's no air conditioning there. And there's, from what I can say, it's secured, but it's secured with garage doors. There's no other aspects of that. So I don't know how that would work or
I
favor.
don't think that would be secure enough.
Now, I actually, and again, I went and had a conversation, I went and actually looked at the CAP office as well. And it could be a space that might work, but there's issues with, it's already occupied and there's people in office who are doing routine meetings, meeting with people there. So that one's kind of falling apart as well. So I think I've probably hit everything that you probably already considered and drove a nail and the final nail in the coffin and all. So, but I have a different idea
Okay,
about it that I need to talk with these 2 gentlemen about. We'll see what comes forward.
thank you.
Thanks. Hey, excellent presentation. We have Whitney.
Everyone hear me okay?
No.
At all? About now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I almost said good evening. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Whitney Kelling. I'm from Administrative Resources Association. I'm here today to present on the Owner Occupied Rehabilitation Program. This is an exciting grant opportunity because it is one that our firm has secured funding for 8 different communities across the state, nearing almost $3 million in investments in affordable housing across the state. So I'm very excited that you all are interested. We have a couple things to go over, so I'm going to make a lot of talk about applications for the county, but also applications for the homeowners. So right now, I just want to address the components of the county's application to the OOR program. Next slide, please, Teresa. So the OOR program is a resident-focused home repair program designed to assist low and moderate income families. The funding for this grant opportunity comes from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so that meets one of their national objectives. The max award a county can apply for is $500,000. The minimum local match requirement is 10% of the total project cost. We are nearing an application window, so today with your approval, we would like to move forward with a resolution from the Brown County Council. And we'll go into a more in-depth presentation then, but I know that all of you have seen this presentation, but I know that there are some new faces in the audience, so I just want to make sure that I'm answering questions, so please feel free to interrupt as I go along. All right, so these are the three main goals of the program. They are to, of course, benefit LMI persons. So we hear a lot about Okra and area-wide LMI benefit, and that's based on the percentage. However, with this program, we are looking at the individual homeowners specifically. So we are looking at an individual's low to moderate income status. This program does help people who belong to limited clientele, such as elderly, veterans, persons with disabilities, or single parents, heads of household. The eligible applicants, so if the county is awarded funding for the homeowner applications, these are the types of repairs that we can cover as part of that grant program. So we're talking roof repairs or replacements, ADA features up to the threshold of the home, HVAC replacements, and water heater replacements. The lighting and electrical is really to support the other work. So we can't come inside your home and rewire the whole house. I just wanted to make it clear. Anyone in the county is eligible to apply. They just have to meet certain income requirements. There are some things like we need to see that your property taxes are up to date or that you have home insurance, because if we make this repair to your home and something happens, then we've lost our investment. So it's quite a bit of paperwork for people who are selected for the program based on a scoring system, but just wanted to present those ideas to you now. Next slide. So these are the HUD income limits for Brown County. So where you really want to be looking is at the bottom row where you see the low income limits. For a one-person household in Brown County to be considered low income, you would need to make $62,000 or less, and that's because you're in the Indianapolis metro area. So that number is only going up year to year. These were just released this summer. Next slide. If the county were awarded, this is what a typical timeline would look like. So ideally, as part of your application, you would submit a wait list of people who are interested in the program. And we say, hey, we've got 30 homes here right now. We're ready to go and begin work. And so what we would do after the award is we would verify the income. As I touched on, we would need to see the deed to their home or verification from their employer or verification of assets. And then what we would do is schedule an initial home inspection with our licensed home inspector. He'll go through the house and make sure that the work is deemable. He'll test for radon at that site visit as well. We can mitigate radon as well. And then he will create what is called a bid sheet or a scope of work, and then we'll bid those out individually to contractors locally. We have a list that we work with, but we'll have another meeting to solicit other contractors. And then we have about a year of construction to complete homes. Here's our communication plan. So something that people always say is, well, I don't have internet, or, I need a paper application. I can't, call, but you can text me, you can email me, those types of things. So here's kind of how we follow up with applicants throughout the process so that we make sure that we're assisting people timely and with care. Next slide. And this is the slide that I think everybody's waiting for, is a $500,000 grant budget breakdown. As part of your ARA membership, the grant writing is included. There's about 14 different sections that are included as part of this application since it is a federal grant. So we have to do things like an environmental review where I take maps of the airport, and I have to talk about, we have to have a public hearing, things like that. So it's really a citizen-owned project as well. So we'll be doing quite a bit of marketing, and we'll get involved with other communities as well. Any questions about these slides or the $500,000 grant request?
Where would our 50,000 come from? Julia, you got that figured out?
No,
No, not yet.
I don't.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, so I've been asked to prepare a $500,000 grant request and also a $350,000 grant request. So the difference between the two programs mainly is, of course, the local match amount, but it's also the number of people you're able to assist. With a $500,000 grant request, you're looking to assist around 30 to 35 homes. That's been about the average that we've seen in the other 8 communities that we're working in. And then some adjustments based on how many homes you're able to help or solicit. But with your membership, normally grant administrators will take a full 8% of the entire project cost, and we lower that for our members. And then next slide, please. So this would be the budget breakdown for a $350,000 grant request. We're looking to help around 20 to 25 homeowners. And so that's been kind of reduced by 30%. Next item, yep. So as part of the application, as I said, it was hours going into it. Number one is I would encourage you to develop an applicant wait list. People can fill out an online application on SurveyMonkey, or they can pick up a paper application somewhere in the county offices. We need to discuss that. But basically, we need to show that there's a need for this program in the county, and it sounds like there is, based on the feedback I've received in one-off conversations about this. The second item for a key public engagement would be the public hearings. So once I get the local funds allocated, I would schedule a public hearing that I would lead, and people could come and fill out applications, ask questions, make statements, those sorts of things. We really want to make sure that this is a community supported event. And then the third activity would, of course, be letters of support. You don't have to be part of a fancy organization to write a letter of support. You can be a resident, leave a Facebook comment, or, you know, make a phone call, something like that. But just to know that residents are engaged. Okay, perfect.
Oh, it doesn't like that one slide. It won't go to 11. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
It skips right over it.
Well, basically, it sets us up for a county council meeting. We need to have a
Okay.
resolution allowing Tim to sign off on a grant agreement, and then approving local match amounts either for the $350,000 or the $500,000 award. Which I'm hoping you can make a decision on today, or let me know how you would like to proceed in the work session tomorrow too. Any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I guess I do. What do you need from us? I mean, the council's got to pull the trigger on the amount of money that we may have available for the grant, right?
Mhm.
So they got to pass that resolution.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then we support that as well, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
you got to, that's the first step.
Mhm.
And so your deadline is
August
tight,
15th.
right?
Yes.
Fine.
So, I mean, just the timing of the month, we'll probably have a public hearing the week of the application is due, but I'll type up the minutes and submit it. But,
We got till August 15th to do something, right?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
So back to his question was, what do you need from us?
Thank you. I need as much community support as possible for this project. Really, it's just about, this is a resident focused program, and if the residents aren't interested, then we won't get it. So it's really important that we make promote materials, promote letters of support. I can pull as much data as I can from the state, but if residents aren't saying anything about it, then
So I guess I'm gonna deviate from you because I have a member here in the audience from the Brown County Community Foundation. Is that given this oversight, John, and look at that, and come here, join me or
Well,
here? If you'd like,
interesting instance.
my question is, it sounds like it's a level of support,
I
meaning
was gonna
getting
ask
the
Whitney
information
to
out.
send your presentation to Alice, and I'll encourage her. I think we should be able to do a letter of support. And it's consistent with one of the top key deliverables in our strategic plan. We've provided funding to 2 different community organizations, one of which is represented to my left,
Right.
for a purpose consistent with this, and then SAWS is the other group. So it lines up with fully vetted, fully researched priority that we've identified.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to join us.
So
The
that's,
same thing, by the way, about the pump track, before I forget, we are also investors as our Lilly Endowment, so I hope you'd consider investing alongside us on that also.
so from my understanding, to answer that question is that it's fully funded at this point. Pump track is.
I'm hearing that you're better informed than me. I can tell you only about the first 96,000.
So from my understanding is the remaining funds were received from the CDB.
Yeah.
So that's a commitment that I understand that we have.
So this is.
So, and the only reason I asked and reached out to you, engaged here, is because your organization has a lot of access to nonprofits in the community that do outreach like through the ball, Vincent's and those kinds of things. Who probably have a better identity on need in the community and where that need's at.
I think this is one of those need categories where the capacity of the nonprofits, even combined and collaborating, may not fully meet the need.
Okay.
So you come down to, do you invest in additional capacity for Habitat or another? Invest in another way or not? And I would frankly defer to Sue on that question, but certainly there's more need than capacity at the present, but a lot of basic need. topics.
Okay.
And what the lion's share of the requirement, you're gonna process all the applications. So I mean, we've got to have to have a communication strategy when it comes to who do we send the information to, who reviews all the applicants. That's on ARA, right?
Yes, ARA would, download applications, put them in an Excel spreadsheet in a Word points based on, how below they are from that income line. Are they a senior? Are they disabled? Those types of things. How much work is needed? Do you have a comment about the urgency of repair? Things like that. So those are things that we can develop as part of the application, but it would be us contacting homeowners and then asking for your review is how we would do that. We would do all the income verification to answer your question.
So timing wise, if we find money by August 15th, then the rest of the process kicks in. We go out, say, hey, we're here, and then we go out requesting applications and communication, all that.
So I would need to have the specific fund name of where local funds will come from to run the ad for the public hearing and things like that. So ideally before the county council meeting, I should also mention that this is a quarterly funding opportunity. So there's another one later this year, but I feel like we've been talking about it for a while now and it'd be nice to get some feedback.
A lot on everybody's plate.
So when you say quarterly funding, so that means that that's $500,000 for the year total?
No, there's quarterly application windows, so there's, and then they allocate however much money each year from HUD and dedicate it to those projects. So you don't know how much money is really left until you apply.
Okay. And sorry, John, for putting you on the spot. Not intentional, it was.
And did you bring your checkbook, John? Don't want to add to the stress.
I usually hear that question from the council, not from you.
Well, we got a dual hit you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm with Habitat for Humanity, and we are working with Triad and our Brush with Kindness program to try to repair homes within our limited capacity.
Okay.
And I would say they would be a key source to reach out to recruit people to apply, because we can't do repairs to the extent that is being talked about. And I would seriously support this. I'm not sure how many families we'd have, but we'd be willing to help you reach out to them and see who needs help. So.
And I think the other thing, and going right along with that, is maybe we need to actually sit down and introduce you to Andy Alexander. Because he is the one is managing all of the funds and resources to basically get, help our veterans, which again, I hate to say it, that we probably have people that fall into that category there and that are veterans in the community as well. So it sounds like we have an opportunity to do that.
I would certainly think so.
Sorry, hi. I work at Community Mental Health Services here in Brown County. Oh, sorry. So I work at Community Mental Health Services here in Brown County, and a lot of the clients that I work with are elderly or disabled, or elderly and disabled. I think there's a large a large amount of people that are aging out here. Not everybody realistically, has natural supports. And I've run into instances in this community where it's somebody who's a homeowner, they don't have natural supports. Not everybody's got a son that can come over and replace a hole in the floor or whatever the case may be. We have, been in contact with Triad. Not everybody's a homeowner either though, but a lot of them are. I know recently I saw someone trying to drum up funds for the replacement of a roof for a disabled couple that could not get their roof replaced. And I've seen some bad roofs in this area. So I think that's a great program. After the meeting, I could give you my manager's email. We're a nonprofit as well. But I have run into some issues getting help for people in the community. Our organization's a nonprofit, but we do have CARES funds. Those are just employees like myself and my coworkers that take a portion of our paycheck into a fund. Recently I had somebody at a local apartment complex that was facing eviction because they needed some deep cleaning things done in the community. And for us, it's part of teaching those life skills, but that's not realistic for everybody. Some of these people, and I know it's been a problem getting Area 10 for aging has been pretty backlogged on getting people help. But from my perspective, working in the field, and we have a lot of elderly clients that is an issue. I am the person at our organization that does what's called the BPHC, which is expanding on Medicare to help people get a crossover where they also get Medicaid coverage. And they get a little bit of their monthly disability check back if they're eligible for it. And in that case, they're allowed to be 300% over federal poverty level versus 100% for regular Medicaid. So I am seeing an increase, and I don't know how it came to be, but I ended up being the person that helps those that are elderly clients. So definitely a need there from my perspective.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Audience?
I have a question. You say that expressions of interest from qualified residents are a big factor. Sounds, of course, very reasonable. In your experience with the other 8 communities, what's the most effective way, or how successful have you been at getting expressions from individual residents?
Really, again, it's the applications, asking them key questions about, okay, I need to understand your situation. Are things getting worse? Or is it been 3 to 5 years that you've been dealing with this? And you find that people are making do at home DIY repairs at home, and it's terrifying, and it's a big health and safety concern. So, this program really promotes that, and like she touched on aging in place and things like that. So just hearing that, look, if I don't fix this, then this, it's just that story that we need to hear from people.
Well,
And
that certainly makes sense. I want to back up a little bit though. And how do you get the word out?
so I know, the county does not have a Facebook page. So typically Facebook has been our most effective because it's reachable for most communities. So it's just helpful to know that there are some organizations in the room that are willing to tap into some wait list applications that they may have that they can't reach.
Okay.
That has been very effective, working with township trustees and some of these other organizations who are just over capacity.
I hope we're all listening, because that's going to be crucial to the success of the program.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions, Whitney. Is your presentation on your website, .org here?
It is not, but I can talk to somebody about that if you like, or.
Yeah, because I'd be happy to put it on our Facebook page. Tim and I both run community Facebook pages where we have thousands of members from the community on those pages.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to post that there for you. My next question is, the $55,000 that you're gonna need as a match, does that have to come from the county budget, or can it come from like individual fundraisers that we do around the community? Is there a stipulation of where you get that?
It honestly, if it doesn't come from the county, it can come from another source. However, we'll need more documentation, and that needs to be cash on hand. It can't be projected. really, I don't know, if that we have a system for collecting fundraising dollars
We
or.
do actually.
Actually, we do.
Oh. We have a fund for that.
Like, could it, some of it come from the community foundation? Could it come from just different organizations or even just fundraisers?
Yes, I've had, funding come from like a development corporation in the past. I've had money come from ERDC. It's just a matter of documenting, letters and resolutions from different groups. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can put it on our website too.
Okay. Thanks.
But I also just want to make sure that we wait until the council meeting until we know if we're doing this, formally, before we begin letting people know there's a program, and I just want to manage expectations around
Okay.
that. So thank you. Thank you.
You're aware of their working session tomorrow?
Yes.
You able to attend that?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
All the time.
Okay. Great. If there's any more questions, we got one more. All right, the Rural Empowerment and Development Program.
Yes.
When you've been struggling with for the past week on that application, trying to blend everybody's input on that.
I got so excited. I'm so done. Earlier today, I worked with, the Commissioner, Tim Clark on the, Rural Empowerment Development Program, the RED program offered by, Okra. This is really a capacity building program that comes at no charge to the county to participate in strategic planning, for the county. So I think that so many times we get so excited about projects, we think, okay, we're gonna figure this out and we're going to, pull it together last minute. But I think that this is an opportunity, to hear from some other voices around the county about what their priorities are. We sent off an application talking about the relationship between the town and the county and how, we could come up with teams, to focus on different topics and things like that. But, we'll find out about that in August.
Okay.
Is, I believe, the announcement date. But, this program, like I said, comes at no cost to the county, but I think could be very beneficial. The people who are leading this program is the Indiana Community Institute from Ball State University. So they've been doing this program under different names and such, but I think it could be a really good opportunity. I think it starts with a 2-day work session and then lasts for about 4 to 6 months in follow-up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any questions on that? Yeah.
Rural empowerment, huh?
So I don't have the materials or anything like that. They will first take an assessment of the county at the data level and then present to you all and then kind of go through a problem solving exercises and things like that. So that's my understanding of the program.
Well, and what we did too, also, we looked at the guidance and I talked to folks at Ball State just to get a feel for what the program is. Not a whole lot of very specific details that you like to get at this point. But pretty much what they're doing is have a collaboration model. And you think about collaborative decision making, you're talking about it at a community level. That's kind of a big deal. How do you get everybody's voice throughout the county represented? Typically, we focus on Nashville or county stuff, but we don't reach out to the other unincorporated parts of the county as to what they want, don't want. Then how do you reach them once you do? Because we all know the challenges we have for communication, within the county. So this is a process. What we did is tried to integrate kind of a train the trainer thing. So you can start, maybe it's their 6-month, 9-month window, whatever you are, but you want to sustain something like this. If you've got all these projects and I don't know what their model is for project management, I'm anxious to see what that is. But I mean, they can do the data drawdown and we've done the data drawdown in this county. I got more sources of data than you shake a stick out. I'd be surprised if they come up with anything new. But also what they do is they have the different team members go out in your communities or your area, whatever, and ask people, kind of do a survey, what's working, what's not, what can we improve, what are the opportunities? So I'm thinking what they'll probably do is they'll take the data that we have, and then they'll take the input that you get from citizens. And it's just not one meeting here. It's like, how do you reach out to all these different communities throughout the county and get that input? And then you merge that input to identify kind of projects. And these projects could be just 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but actually you get to find a problem and work through a process. So if you're talking collaboration, they're talking project management, I'm looking forward to seeing what their model looks like. It's hard to turn that down. And ultimately, when you establish something like that, it's just not a one and done that you see so often. It's like, okay, how do we sustain that? And so like a train the trainer model, if you've gone through it and walked through the process and walked through a project or team, we can just keep doing it. Or you don't want to say it's one and done. You want to go back and say, well, we did a project. How'd that work? Or if we just go on the shelf, admire it, and congratulate everybody and go on, which typically happens too often. And so, we're looking at a sustained capability. We're looking kind of a cultural change for how we look at problems, how we collaborate. And so you look at all the unincorporated communities we have in here, you just never see them on writing. It's always maybe one thing or two things and not everybody's perspective, because a lot of folks in the county just leave us alone kind of thing, and others want a lot more sources. And then when you look at the census data and the LMI numbers, man, that was significant when you look at it, where we have the money in the county and where we don't have money in the county. And gee whiz, I bet each of those census tracts or combination would have a different types of needs. It's just not one solution fits all. So how do you collaborate, identify those, and then how do you prioritize that and then move forward? So typically another thing that happens when we get an opportunity for a big grant, we just pull ideas off the shelf and say, here it is. Well, that's just not going to work. We've got to have a kind of a strategy, and we probably attract more grant money if we had an approach that says, hey, we got our act together. Here's our priorities, and here's the folks that got involved in doing that. So that's a big deal. So the way we framed the application we had a lot of different input on that. We kind of identified, hey, we see what your program is offering, but here's kind of what we need, and here's the challenges that you face. Because we've worked with Ball State before, back in 2016, when they did the Community Readiness Initiative, CRI, that led to the Hometown Collaborative Initiative, which is another Ball State cooperation partnership thing. So we went through that. But what is different this time is that project model. When they talked about 10 or 15 projects, that might work for a big community. We may have half that number. But once you start those, you've got a successful prototype that you can replicate. That's what we're after. I mean, can we use that and then sustain that and make that part of how we do things in the county? So that's the promises. And so I'd be curious when they see what our requirements in there, they'll go, do one of these or not. So we got maybe 21 volunteers, because it's kind of a short window. But we can double that if we want. And I tell you, if you go for the train the trainer thing and break it down by communities, that 20 people or 40 people could triple or quadruple, when you look at different approaches. So we'll see. I think we were pretty honest. I think you did a super job on the application, and I'm hopeful. It's something, really add value, I think, to the county. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Tim, so are you telling me that this is very similar to the leadership program that we participated in?
Sherry, the difference is between this and HCI, and Sherry's bringing up HCI. Part of that community rating initiative, that got started in 2016 when we failed to get the Stellar in 2014. And so they said, hey, you guys need some help. And so they had about 50 folks involved in CRI. And part of that, they said, oh, gee whiz, you ought to apply for the Hometown Collaborative Initiative grant. And so we had three options on that. You had leadership, placemaking, and economics, and we chose leadership. Thing with that, Sherry, is what they did is they did a pretty good job on the training piece. I think we started with 30 people and went down to 15, back to 20, down to 5, up to 10. I mean, it varied over the year. There was a good probably 9 months of training, another 3 to 6 months to 9 months after that. But where they stopped on that one is they turned us loose on a capstone project. So we did the application, and then the first one failed. Then we did another application to sustain the grant, and then plop, that's it. There's no support for helping us integrate that plan going forward. And then, of course, when people saw the amount of work involved, it's like one of these, how you do. So this one, I think what's different is they embedded projects into this. So you just don't admire a problem, but they actually facilitate a project team throughout the process. So that's what we were missing really on the HCI thing. So I'm thinking that plugs it. That's the expectation. That's kind of what we identified, what we're expecting, because you just can't leave people hanging. And I don't know what their model looks like for problem solving or project management. So I'm interested to see that. So I've seen dozens of models. So I'm curious to see what theirs look like. But you got to go from here's the problem and here's the solution, and it works. You declare success, and that's success that motivates more success. and encourages the program. If you don't have that, then it dies and it goes on the shelf like a lot of other things that we do here. And I certainly want to avoid that. I'm just kind of had my fill in my career of shelfware projects. So, you know, pretty high expectations and I think we've got the support commitments to have a little better probability of success on this one. That's if they take us on. They may think we're too hard and we would be. I wouldn't underestimate the challenge you would have within the county. So we'll see. That's the difference.
Thanks.
Yes.
I'm wondering how the county comprehensive plan fits into all this, or is this just at least operating in silos?
No, we address that too in the application as well. This is like a precursor to the comp plan.
Okay.
I mean, you know the difference between how the town went about it, well-funded, plenty of time, and then the county not as well-funded, a short period of time, and let's see what we can do in this time window. And that's great. I love the work that was done on it. I love bringing everything up to current date. But the next part is that community engagement. You've got to get people involved and you've got to get their voice on that. And they got to confirm that, yes, this is the right direction or it's not, or you're missing a lot of pieces. And so what I see the opportunity on this particular program is like a precursor to that.
Okay.
So if we can get that community engagement, we can introduce what collaboration actually means when we look at projects, actually work through projects. That kind of sets the foundation for going out to get community engagement on the comprehensive plan to make sure we've got the best product we can possibly do.
I'm glad to hear that because I think what we learned with the town comprehensive plan was it was easier to get public engagement with the public meetings we had. But you're talking about folks outside of town that are much more challenging, let's say, to draw in. And just having another public meeting here isn't necessarily going to get the job done.
No, and you know, I'm not opposed when it comes to the comprehensive plan or anything else. I'm not opposed to doing a direct mail. I'm not opposed to getting volunteers, knock on doors and ask people input. I mean, I don't know how else you can do it in this county, you know, without going out and making that effort. So whatever that takes, so when all said and done, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we reached out to everybody. Everybody got an opportunity. If we've got handouts and we drop off at doors, that's great too. People understand what a district is, what zoning is, what's allowed within those areas, and all the things that are possible in their particular neighborhood. You know, if we make that available, job done, you know, and whether or not people want to get engaged or not is another thing. But it's always funny. Zoning is pretty boring to people. But you know, if I put, it's just boring unless it hits your neighborhood and then this room is packed. You get the passion in this room. And so, you know, what I thought I could do is do one of these satirical kind of posts and say, hey, you know, we've got a 24/7 outdoor music venue coming to your neighborhood with outdoor music and a cash bar. You know, do you want something like that in your area? I bet you I'd fill a room.
Oh, yeah.
We'd have to book the Playhouse at the music center and they'd fill in to tell you what's wrong with that idea. So that gets people attention. So whatever we got to do to be creative, I think people need to have some kind of understanding of what can go on in their neighborhood and they have that controls for what they want. Because the toughest decision we have as commissioners, I hate it, is when we get a zoning kind of change, man, and there's conflict. And when you look at our process, it's like, man, don't put me in that situation again. Let's fix it. And take out the ambiguity that the BZA has, the EPC has when they review these things, and then it comes to us and you know how it can go good and go not so good. And I want to prevent that. I'm a big prevention kind of guy and things we can do to prevent a lot of that drama that pops up on all these different issues. So we want to fix that. Don't want to go through some of the decisions we've had to make over the past few months. Shouldn't have to do it. Should be easier or more clear. So that's a goal. We got high expectations. We got to put that in the application, did we? I'm gonna try to talk them out of it. Don't take us because we got high expectations and high demand, and we got a lot of issues that we'd like to challenge. And if they're not up to the challenge, don't waste our time. And the other thing about the application is it's a little tweak, and we got an RFP, so we can do a request for proposal to get somebody else to do it if they don't have the capability. And so I think it's that important, and I'll do what I can to help make the case. So that's kind of where we're at. If that makes sense.
It does.
And the service, like Sunday service, huh?
Yeah. It's really exciting.
Any other questions or? Okay. All right, moving right along. Teresa, anything?
Have a few things for, department heads and elected officials. We are going to have another handbook policy meeting. So I'll send out, some dates for staff meetings coming up, and the boards, as of July 1, we have to have the boards posted on the website. I did update the RDC page, but there's another page, I guess, everybody goes to with all the board information on it. It was posted, but it is not correct. It was given to me again, but I still found a couple errors. I keep forgetting you, Amy. So, we'll get that fixed. So that's, happening now. And the streaming thing, I guess there was some comments made about the YouTube comments being turned off. That was a decision made. We're not gonna do that. It will be there forever. Public would be able to post whatever they wanted, and that would be on the recording. So that's why that's not happening. And we're closed Friday. Happy 4th. You have a question?
Yeah, just the streaming of public meetings. I assume there's no requirement that comments be available,
That's correct.
because it is a state statute and I just don't know what the details are.
Yeah, that is not. on the
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, the July 1 kicked in not only the streaming thing, especially if you're in this room, you've got to stream it, if you've got a
Sure.
government kind of meeting here. The other one was the boards and commissions. You had to identify the board, the commission, who appointed them, and what their term of service is. And we've always had that on the website, but we haven't always been dutiful in making that current. So now we either make it current or they haul us out, I guess. We'll see, I can't wait.
Well protected.
Yeah.
Maybe Oliver on the school board, and thank you for checking on that, because I keep going back to all the pages, and RDC is particularly like blank. So I appreciate you working on that. And I guess I just I've been kind of sending notes to everybody, like agenda, minutes, audios for lots of the committees and are just not on the website. And so I'm working with the election board, and last time I checked, might be updated since then, want to caveat that. But those things were not even throughout the election season or whatever. And I know it's not solely your job, Teresa, so I don't mean to be putting that on you, but I just want to remind everybody that, we are using that site. I mean, it's just members of the public, and I'm thrilled about live streaming because it really does allow everybody to sit at home, find out what's going on and really hear it for themselves, right? There's a lot of that. And so I think that that's really been such a positive thing. And I agree with not having comments because you can't have it. We have our rules about our 3 minutes that you can speak and those types of things. And if you were to just allow anybody randomly to comment, that would actually, be detrimental. So that's all good. But I just want to thank you for really spending some time on that, because I think that's it. It just gets lost in everybody's day to day.
And we are trying, we really want to start pushing the website. We don't have a Facebook page. That should be the place where our community can go.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, again, and the agendas and minutes thing, I mean, I'm sure that only those of us who are nerdy enough to go look at it do, but to be able to go back and look at what happened, make sure everybody's minutes are up to date and all of that. So I thank you guys for working on it. I know it's a lot of work, but I really, I actually like it because I think people are engaged, and that's really ultimately what we want. So,
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Right. Sorry, I forgot to say my name last time, Christina McElroy Sites. Now, in regards to the handbook, I know you guys are gonna have a session, and there have been a couple of mentions of the handbook here. And I know that it said on today's sheet on the back that I think you guys have a goal of having that finalized by August. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. My question for you, because I've brought this up before and been interrupted and cut off in regards to it, but I do think it's important for taxpayers because as elected officials, managing finances is a huge part of that and saving money. But my question today is, do you intend to change the policy that's in the current handbook on take-home vehicles?
Chris, we're not gonna go into the details on the personnel issues. We're looking at.
It's not a personnel
We're
issue,
looking at-
it's a
We're looking at the
fund
manual.
issue.
We're getting the input from department heads and we'll take the appropriate action, make the appropriate changes. We're not gonna discuss
Well,
that detail.
Jim, it's not a discuss of personnel issues, it's about using fuel, our fuel costs and keeping those
We're
down.
considering all the options within the personnel manual, so I'm not going into detail at this point.
Well, I just wanted to share with the public that the current manual, under section 5.11, take home vehicles, page 84 in the personnel policies handbook, states employees should not transport any person other than county employees in a county vehicle except in the course of official business. Take-home vehicles may only be used for personal purposes on a de minimis basis, such as occasional use for a personal errand while using the vehicle for a business purpose or.
Christie, let me stop you. We're familiar with our policy. We're familiar with compliance or non-compliance.
Well, I'm just making you aware, because last Thursday around 8
That's a
PM,
personal
That's a
matter.
personal matter.
I did
Issue we're not discussing.
take-
Please, that's.
it's a
You're
liability.
done.
You've had your-
Please.
It's a
you've had your 3
liability.
minutes. Thank you.
You're interrupting. I haven't had my.
Well, you've had-
Yes, you've had your time because you're raising personal matters.
We're not discussing personal issues at the.
Taxpayer dollar matter when people are using county-owned vehicles.
You see
The
this.
county paid for fuel to transport their families to the Chocolate Moose on a Thursday night with their wife and 2 kids in the vehicle. You're all of the
Personnel matter,
liability.
we're not discussing it. Would you please stop and take a seat?
Do you agree it's a liability
Would you please stop?
for
and
the
take a
county?
seat?
Yes or no question?
We're dealing with the. a
It's not being
personnel
dealt with
issue.
because I
It's
brought
a
it up
policy
weeks ago
issue.
and
We're
I'm
dealing
still.
with that. I've said that before. Done.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's our dollars. My tax money.
Okay. All right, next issue on the budget submission. We put ours in for July 1. Can't wait to go through that process. It's been pretty interesting. Been a pretty interesting process. Wow. In addition to our budget, we all took a pretty hard look at it past several months. Supporting tasks for that for us are the 5-year projections, leases, contracts, grants, capital improvements, and unfunded requirements are all working now. So continually improving that process. And we're looking across a lot of areas to a lot of improvements. I think we see some opportunities there. On the backside, just want to update you on the Indian Hill. Barnes and Thornburg, Jake German and Mike Moga and myself met with the senior staff at NDOT, and we talked about our requirements and the history and all that kind of thing. And so we're looking at just a kind of an incremental strategy. Right now, I think we estimated we bring that crossing up to current standards, it's about at $1.9 million, which it brings it up to current code in an area that has no safety issues and it's pretty remote. So we're looking at, let's do the increment, let's do a pedestrian crossing to allow hikers and bikers through there. And I think initially what we found out is you may need signage or, whatever signs and lights or whatever they require, but we focus on that one. And let's get the pedestrians through there first. And then the second one is, can we have it open to limited traffic? We've got a farmer, that 7th generation farmer that gave the original easement to the railroad. Now they can't cross over the railroad to get to their field. So we're looking at maybe a limited access there. Is that something we can do within Indiana code without messing around with the Federal Highway Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation? So we're looking at that. At the same time, we're not giving up on opening up the whole thing. One of those, what can we do on requirements, and then what kind of help can we get out of the state and legislatures? Because when you look at our stakeholders that are all involved in this, we've got dozens of folks that have, this is a high priority for them. And so we're just going to keep at it until we get that thing open. So again, we're starting off incrementally, but we're not giving up longer term things. If we can adjust some requirements and be a little flexible on that, hopefully we can get that open sooner rather than later. But we've been at this 5 years, it didn't go away, so we'll keep at it. July 16th meeting, kind of see Mountain Peak State Forest. State wants to put $6.5 million into paving 3/4 of a mile of road, so they're going to be here to present. We met with them, identified some of the concerns folks had within the county. They identified some of the engineering kind of challenges and benefits and that kind of thing. Feedback they've gotten from residents over the years, so that'll be pretty interesting. But you're just looking at 2 lanes, 22 feet, 2 foot shoulders. Right now, it's pretty, it's a gravel road, pretty challenging, washes out a lot, requires a lot of maintenance. So Stay tuned on that one. County comprehensive plan, the APC approved that, so we'll look at that on July 16th, and then, we have a highway thing. That's kind of it, Mike. That's it for the agenda here. Mike, you got anything from a legal
Just
standpoint?
one comment though.
Kevin?
So on the August 6th item, I just wanted the audience to know that there will be a 14-day requirement for advertising the food fee schedule and the spawn hot tub ordinance. So please look for that coming in mid-July timeframe. We'll have information on that.
Okay. All right, anything from your perspective?
Nothing out of my side. Thank you.